You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Our number 312-255-8408. You'll also catch us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. And Father Greg Sakowicz, the rector of the cathedral here in Chicago, and co-hosting Mark Teresi, executive director of the cathedral here in Chicago. How are you, Mark?
Good. That just scared me, that image. Just
yours or mine?
No, not yours. Who's that old man in front of me there?
Now, the thing is, to let our listeners know, Mark and I are in separate studios within the radio and TV office here, just for safe distancing. And but I also have to give tremendous kudos to our producer, engineer, Michael May.
He sure is.
Mark, he's by himself this morning.
He's really buzzing on that
He's
wheelchair,
juggling like
back and forth.
3 or 4 balls into the air at one time. So, again, 312-255-8408. And Catholic Extension is a national organization and the Papal Mission Society, which has been based in Chicago since its founding in 1905. Its mission is to work in solidarity with people to build up vibrant and transformative Catholic faith communities in the poorest regions of America. Joining us today is Joe Boland, Vice President of Mission for Catholic Extension. In his role, Joe oversees the relationships, programs, and funding that Catholic Extension provides to 87 dioceses across the country. He has served in this role for 14 years. Joe Boland, welcome to the program this morning. How are you, Joe?
Thank you for having me. I'm wonderful and better for being in your presence this morning.
Now,
oh my word!
Here
we go.
Say more, Joe.
Yeah, more.
Now, Mark, you and Joe go back years.
Well, Joe, when were you at the seminary?
That would have been about 20 years ago or more now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll go back 20 years.
Yeah. And then when you had first started at Extension, I remember visiting, and I don't know what was, the memory is, but I remember seeing you at Extension. We had a visit. I don't know if you were doing a parish outreach, but anyway, you've been there 14 years. That's a great tribute to Extension, that's keeping a quality person like you for 14 years.
And also, Joe, a shout out to your boss, Father Jack Wall, who I heard just last week celebrated a birthday.
Yeah, he did celebrate a birthday. He celebrated a very significant birthday, and he is
39.
He is young and chipper as always, energetic. He's a wonderful guy to work for, and he's the reason I'm here. He recruited me when he first became president of Catholic Extension. Father Jack Wall at the time was, of course, leaving his post at Old St. Pat's, where he was. Many people know him from his 24 years there. And Cardinal George had asked him to come to be the president of Catholic Extension. And so he was putting his team together. And he tapped me on the shoulder one day and he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something." And I didn't know what he wanted to talk about, but that something ended up being, what you have now 14 years later. Here we are with this just wonderful memories and so much to look forward to still in terms of our work at Catholic Extension. It's been a beautiful ride and a beautiful journey together with,
now, Joe,
with a great leader.
Has Jack been with Extension now for 14 years?
So I think he got here about a year, a little less than a year before I did. So he's going on 15 years, actually.
That's amazing. Now, what is your background? Are you Chicago born and raised?
Yes, Chicago guy, grew up in the suburbs, live in the city now. And so I'm from Chicago. I'm married a Clevelander. I hope that's okay. Our kids are, they're Bears fans.
That's what counts.
I said, the sports fandom needs to follow the father's lineage, if that's okay. And my wife agreed to that. So,
what was your home parish?
Growing up, it was Holy Family in Inverness.
Oh my gosh.
So
as a new parish, actually. So when I grew up in other parishes as a kid, but then when Holy Family was founded in 1988, we were among some of the founding parishioners there.
Wow.
In fact, I was close to. I was at the Church of the Holy Spirit in Schaumburg with Father George Kane from 79 to 85 as a newly ordained priest. I was just south of you.
And that was my grandparents' parish, and they loved you. God rest their souls.
Now, their names?
Their last name, there was my maternal grandparents. Their last name was Henning.
I remember
Agnes
them. I remember them. Oh, my gosh. That's going back a long ways.
Now, two things before we delve into Catholic Extension. In the Archdiocese, it's amazing to me how many people mistake Jack Wall for Greg Sakowicz. I mean, it's astounding.
They're easily mistakable.
He's much younger.
But
Jack's much younger, Mark.
But here's my question. Catholic Extension is a papal society. It's universal in terms of the work, more specifically in the U.S., but it's always had Chicago leadership. How did that happen?
That's exactly it. So it goes back to the very beginning, and it's a great story. And I'm first of all thankful to be on the program today, because I think a lot of Chicago Catholics don't realize that they have one of the most consequential Catholic institutions in terms of the entire American Catholic experience in their own backyard.
Exactly.
And Catholic Extension has been in Chicago since 1905. It was headquartered here, born out of Chicago, actually, and has remained here ever since. But its scope is obviously much broader than that. In terms of it serving the whole country. And the reason why it was created is because back around that time, around 1900, that's when the United States was no longer seen by the Vatican as a quote unquote missionary country, meaning the Vatican wasn't going to send its resources anymore. And our founder, whose name was Father Francis Clement Kelly, was actually working in a rural parish in Lapeer, Michigan. And he looked around and he said, but we're still a missionary country. The church is fledgling in many places. And if you get outside the large metropolitan areas like Chicago or New York or some of these other areas, the church still needs a lot of help. And so he went around to many areas of the country kind of shopping this idea of a quote unquote extension society in which we would help raise resources that would help build up the church in areas of the country where it was still very missionary. And he got no response from some of the archbishops and bishops out of the Northeast. And he ended up having a conversation with Archbishop Quigley. And Archbishop Quigley said, yes, we must do this. We have to do this. And so he ended up giving Francis Clement Kelly, Father Francis Clement Kelly, Extension a home here. And then they both realized how important this institution was, so that it was only 5 years later that Francis Clement Kelly was knocking on the door of Pope Pius X saying, we really believe that this institution is going to be so consequential for the future of the Catholic Church in America, we'd like to make it a papal society. And so, which means it's bigger than any one diocese, bigger than any one region. And so that's what Pope Pius X did, and here we are 116 years later.
You really have the history down well, Joe. I'm impressed. I mean,
I've read my history books.
I had so you look at, I'm just remembering, Cusick, Slattery, Velo, Wall, all the heads of Extension. What do you think a Chicago priest brings to this role?
That's a great question. And obviously many of our presidents have been Chicago priests. It's not exclusively. So just to get back to your original question, the Pope always the Holy See is the one that actually places our president. So that has been a lot of Chicago priests, perhaps because of their familiarity with it. But always the chancellor of our board is ex officio the Archbishop of Chicago. So the Archbishops of Chicago have always had a role in Catholic extension, again, going all the way back to Archbishop Quigley. So there is that connection to the church in Chicago in terms of our governance. In terms of the leadership of the organization itself, though it does not and has not always been a Chicago priest, I think there is something in the water in Chicago in terms of us kind of seeing the bigger picture. If you actually look at the demographics of the Archdiocese of Chicago, in a lot of ways, they reflect the overall demographics of the church in America in terms of who's Catholic today. And that's kind of always been the case. And so I think the Chicago church does have that sort of visionary mindset, if you will, that understands that the church is bigger than just my parish. The church is even bigger than just my archdiocese. There's this sense of American Catholic identity that I think many of our past presidents have been able to embrace and thrive in this role as president of Catholic Extension, which really is about embracing so many different aspects and realities and situations in the Catholic Church with a mission to help strengthen the church and the church's mission throughout this country. And so I think we've been very well served by so many Chicago-based leaders over the many decades that we've existed.
Joe, just what you're talking about in the last few minutes, when Father Jack Wall approached you 14 years ago and said, I want to talk with you, and the rest is history, what made you say yes to the position?
It's a wonderful question. And I think it goes back to literally what I just spoke about. It was that vision that something important's happening here. And we are in a position to be able to do something beautiful and wonderful and consequential on behalf of the American Catholic Church in the United States, and something that was near and dear to my heart in the poorest communities, in the places where the help and the church's presence is the most vital. And those two things of being part of something that was special, that was great, that was consequential, and being able to do it in a way that is focused on those in greatest need, where I didn't need to hear anything else from Jack Wall other than those two things. And indeed, that has been what the experience has been over the course of my 14-year tenure here at Extension.
How has it grown and changed over 14 years for you?
Boy, where do you even begin? We've really, Father Jack Wall came in here, and I always am impressed to go back to the notes from the first board meeting he ever had. And it impressed me to hear a Chicago pastor really talk in the way that he was talking to our board at the time. And he set out 4 goals. And his 4 goals was, he said, I want to be a benchmark of excellence in terms of who we are as an organization within not just the Catholic Church, but the nonprofit world. And so that was a very bold goal that he had, just in terms of our organization. He said, we need to effectively tell our story and to be a messenger on behalf of so many people across the world, and so across the country. And so he's really helped try to build up a communications organization that gets the word out about what we're doing, and indeed we've done that in many ways. He wanted to build a comprehensive fundraising organization, and our funding to support many of the communities that rely on our help rely on the generosity of donors across the country. We have contributors from all 50 states. And so to build a national organization like that really takes a lot of time and attention and strategy. And that's really something that Father Jack Wall set us out to do, and that we've really accomplished. And then finally, his 4th goal was to develop strategic partnerships. We are not playing the role of coming into a place and imposing our will, imposing our ideas on people. You don't walk into a Native American community or a Native Alaskan village and say, we're going to tell you how you do church. And so Father Jack's goal, and really the script that I have followed over the years in my role as Vice President of Mission, is to develop strategic partnerships with the communities that we work with, and to do it in a way that we can collaborate together and help build up what our mission says we're commissioned to do, to build up vibrant and transformative Catholic faith communities in the poorest regions of America. And so that is just, those are the goals we followed, and there are many ways in which we've set out to try to accomplish those goals.
Joe, that's an outstanding summary. Mark, take us to break.
Yes, WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. When we come back, we're speaking with Joe Boland, Vice President of Mission with Catholic Extension. Maybe when we come back, we'll talk specifics, some stories that Joe has about the fine work that Extension is doing. As he had mentioned, Father Wall's quote, "It is the glory of the Church that we are never better than when we see the face of Christ in the poor." We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
At Catholic Charities, we fight hunger in Chicago throughout the year. Our 6 regional offices in Cook and Lake counties work together to offer sit-down and to-go meals to anyone in need. We deliver meals to those who are homebound, and our 8 food pantries offer 3 to 4 days of food supplies based on household size. Participants in these programs have the opportunity to learn about other Catholic charity services that strengthen individuals, families, and their communities. The challenges for those dealing with food insecurity are especially great during the winter months. To learn how you can help those who are hungry in your neighborhood, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7525. That's 312-655-7525. Thank you for your generosity.
Special. I feel great. I got good grades.
We've seen a huge surge in our kids now meeting or exceeding grade level. Come check us out. You may have never thought we were an option before.
Ancestry and genealogy are more important every day. People all over the world are wanting to learn more about their family heritage for personal and for health reasons. At Catholic Charities, we are hearing from adults who lived for a brief time at St. Vincent's Orphanage, the wonderful life-affirming agency that operated out of our headquarters for 91 years, serving thousands of women, children, and families until it closed in 1972. Our post-adoption services help adults who want to learn more about their experience at St. Vincent's. Our compassionate staff members provide whatever family background information they can offer, along with support and reunion services. To learn more, call 312-655-7093. That's 312-655-7093. The spirit of St. Vincent's lives on in the inspiring stories that continue to emerge today.
We're back. Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, 312-255-8408. Or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Joe Boland, Vice President of Mission with Catholic Extension. At the break, I read a quote from Jack Wall. I'm going to read it again, and then I'm going to ask you a question, Joe. So it is I think this is absolutely an outstanding identifier for the Catholic Church. It is the glory of the Church that we are never better than when we see the face of Christ in the poor. Joe, you're the head of Vice President Mission, Catholic Extension. Could you share maybe a story of impact that you remember, and maybe a personal story that's really touched your heart about the work of Catholic Extension?
Yeah, first of all, just a comment on Father Jack's quote. For me personally, I see the face of Christ so immediately and readily in the face of the poor. I think that's why Pope Francis is constantly turning our attention to the poor. It's why he talks about the preferential option for the poor. It's why he says that we need to, that the church needs to rally around the poor and bring the poor from the peripheries into the heart of the church. And I really believe that that is the very essence, the very core of the mission of Catholic Extension. I remember when Pope Francis first became Pope, Jack said, boy, it seems like Pope Francis could be our marketing director at Catholic Extension, the way he's talking about this. And in my experience, we work with 87 Catholic dioceses throughout the country. There's 15 million Catholics in those places. We're talking about some of the poorest regions of the country. There are situations and there are realities that I have witnessed that I never, before coming to Extension, and I assume most people wouldn't know this either, wouldn't know exist in the United States. And, I remember just most recently during the pandemic, getting phone calls from a lot of the religious sisters and a lot of the pastors whose salaries we fund that work on, places like the Navajo Reservation and other Native American communities out there. And, there was all this attention, about sanitization and, cleaning practices, if you recall, at the beginning of the pandemic. And I remember they called us and said, well, our people don't have running water in their homes. So they actually come to the church to fill up, fresh water that they can take into their homes to do some of their cleaning. But it's a real challenge right now. And so I think, for me, one of the special things about my work at Catholic Extension is to realize that we're in solidarity with a side of the Catholic Church that truly is serving the poorest of the poor. And that is a very, that is a privilege. And that's why Jack said it is to the glory of the church. That is absolutely correct. We are more blessed by our exposure to and solidarity with the poor than they are even in terms of their receiving the generosity that might come from organizations like Catholic Extension. And so it's an absolutely transformational experience. You do not see the church the same way. You don't see the world the same way. You don't see society the same way when you see it through the eyes of the church encountering the poor. And that's a key word, again, that we hear a lot from Pope Francis. It's all about having that in-person encounter. Our narrative right now as a country is so often centered on our polarizations and our divisions. And I tell you, things become very simple when you're sitting around a table with people just having a conversation about what that reality is. And, so for me, one of my favorite experiences of church, honestly, if I'd love to talk to the ecclesiological experts about this, but, of a small community in Alabama, mostly an immigrant community. They work in the fields in Alabama. And we helped pay the position of a woman whose job was to go find the people who were not in the pews in the church and the people who were literally on the peripheries. And she found these communities that were worshiping in sheds, garages, all throughout rural Alabama. And she took me into one of these places, and it was beautiful. It was like walking into the stable at Bethlehem. They had on the wall the 10 Commandments and the 7 Sacraments written out on the other side on a poster board. There was the ATV over there, and a community of faith gathering. There were no priests. There were no official professionals, if you will, of the Catholic Church, apart from this woman who we hired to bring these people into the heart of the church. And they're some of the most special experiences you have with people at that very, very grassroots level. And not only did the person that we work with bring those people into the heart of the church and into a local parish, but she actually worked with them to help make leaders out of them and to support them in their own education and development as leaders in the Catholic Church. And so that's just one example out of like literally thousands that have just touched my life and my faith. Through our work at Catholic Extension.
Now, Joe, I have to ask this question. How many air miles have you logged in 14 years? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I lost track because it is a lot. And there have been many years of crisscrossing the country. By the way, I think that's one of the reasons why Extension works so well being based in Chicago is because we do have I kid you not, I have gone to Alaska for a lunch meeting. That is not a joke. And you can do it in a place like Chicago. You wouldn't be able to do that if you were living in another part of the country.
Right.
I can just as easily run down to Puerto Rico, where we provide a lot of support, and kind of do the same thing. So needless to say, it's been a lot. We are on the road a lot, and that is because we are trying to build up relationships, as Jack said, build strategic partnerships with the communities that receive our support, so that the more that we are in tune with their dreams, their hopes, their desires, the more we can serve them and support them and help build up that vibrant Catholic faith.
Joe, in talking with you, I remember it was back in August of 2017. It was 2017 that I joined Extension with you, Father Jack Wall, Cardinal Blaise Supich. We went down to Brownsville, Texas. There were like 4 or 5 priests with us and a contingent from Chicago just to see Catholic Extension in action. I was so touched and moved by the deep faith of the people that in terms of all that Catholic Extension is giving, I can see with the work that you do, you have received more by what you have seen and experienced in the love of the people, of the poor. And it was a great 4 days we had down in Brownsville, Texas. We were, we actually took a bus or a ride past the wall between Texas and Mexico. And we saw buses being brought to the centers of the communities. And the look of these people's faces who had just walked hundreds of miles through Guatemala into Mexico, into the United States. And I realize it's a whole separate topic, but the church being the face of the poor and a reach out to the community, and not a sense of feeling sorry for them, but saying they are sisters and brothers in the Lord, to reach out to them. That experience back in August of 17 so touched my heart. And I've said this to you, Joe, as much as you try to get the word out there about Catholic Extension, I think it's the best kept secret in the United States. You do such great work of trying to get the name out of Catholic Extension, and yet so many people are unaware of it. We have to make them more aware of Catholic Extension and the great work. Mark, take us to break, would you?
Sure. WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Or you can see us on YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago with Joe Boland, Vice President of Mission with Catholic Extension. Maybe when we come back, we can talk about maybe a few projects that Extension is working on, but also, from my background, how can people financially support the wonderful work of Catholic Extension? We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
At Catholic Charities, we fight hunger in Chicago throughout the year. Our 6 regional offices in Cook and Lake counties work together to offer sit-down and to-go meals to anyone in need. We deliver meals to those who are homebound, and our 8 food pantries offer 3 to 4 days of food supplies based on household size. Participants in these programs have the opportunity to learn about other Catholic charity services that strengthen individuals, families, and their communities. The challenges for those dealing with food insecurity are especially great during the winter months. To learn how you can help those who are hungry in your neighborhood, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7525. That's 312-655-7525. Thank you for your generosity.
We are at the Most Blessed Trinity Parish Food Pantry in Waukegan.
And here we care for people in need. There was definitely an uptick in the needs for services.
We doubled our volume after COVID hit, from servicing about 250 families a week to about 500 a week. We supply bread, tortillas, vegetables, milk, cheese, butter, proteins, fish, chicken, eggs.
Well, the annual Catholic Appeal has been a tremendous help to us, especially over the past year and a half.
Without the annual Catholic Appeal, we might have to close our doors. Our parish is the largest one in the Archdiocese, but is very poor. We think about food and we think about nourishment, but we also nourish the soul, provide that connection to humanity.
The good works here are made possible through the annual Catholic Appeal. Make your gift at annualcatholicappeal.com.
The Cemetery Ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
We're back. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here working with Father Greg, and we're having a wonderful conversation with Joe Boland, Vice President of Mission, Catholic Extension 312, and our number here at our show is 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago.
Mark, why do you look older on the screen?
I'm aging miserably.
Probably because of me.
That's my favorite line. I'm aging miserably.
No, just joking. We all age gracefully.
Yeah, I don't think so, but maybe if I could turn my eyes. Anyway, so Joe, before the break, I was saying two things. One, maybe a project or two so people understand the work of Catholic Extension. People have heard, supplementing salaries to help move the missions forward of the church, but some people are interested in building projects, if you're involved in those kinds of things, the water project. And then how can, we'll talk again about it during the show, but how can people support Catholic Extension?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up building churches. That was one of the things that we started to do as Catholic Extension from the very beginning. That was part of the vision of the organization, and it remains part of the work of what we do. Is when we say we help build up the Catholic Church, literally that can entail building up not only leaders and ministries, but physical buildings as well. Mm-hmm. And so the statistic I love to throw out to people, and it's hard for them to believe, but it is absolutely true. Throughout Catholic Extension's history, so beginning in 1905 to the present day, we have helped build and repair no less than 12,700 Catholic Church facilities in the United States.
Wow.
That is amazing.
That means the Catholic Extension has helped build and repair more churches than there are, wait for it, than there are Starbucks stores in the United States. So that is a tremendous, tremendous legacy. And it is a work that continues. And when we tell people that, oftentimes they might be a little incredulous to say, well, wait a minute, I didn't know we were still building churches. I thought maybe we were merging them or closing them in other areas. I wasn't aware that the Catholic population was growing to the point where we might need new churches. And that's the good news. We work in a lot of parts of the country where it's densely Catholic, where it's youthful, where there's a lot of young people, where the church is growing fast and they don't have two nickels to rub together. Mm-hmm. And so that's where organizations, Catholic Extension really is the organization that comes in to be able to work with them to help make that dream, that reality of a Catholic church, a Catholic facility, a possibility. Now, oftentimes they're very simple structures, but they are better than sometimes the storefront or the shed, as I just mentioned before, that they might be worshiping in. And so we continue to help build churches. And Father Greg, you brought up a great example of a diocese where that's happening, where you were in Brownsville, Texas. It's a diocese of 1.2 million Catholics. It continues to grow. We track all the census data so we can kind of get a feel for what's happening diocese by diocese. But that's a diocese where the bishop, Bishop Danny Flores, who's actually a member of our board of governors, had said to me once, I could be building 4 to 5 new churches per year, and I still wouldn't be keeping pace with the need, the growth that is there. And so that's a tremendously exciting thing for us. And it's kind of it's a unique paradox of where the Catholic Church in America is right now, that the most densely populated Catholic areas of the country also happen to be the poorest areas of the country. And so where there's the highest rates of poverty. And so the church's mission, if we need to be there, perhaps more than anywhere else among the poor. That's the very mission. Again, the foundation of Catholic Extension is ensuring that the church's presence is extended to those peripheries, extended to the poor. And part of what that work entails is building churches. But I also reference to the fact that we fund leaders. I should mention this. We fund about 400 to 500 seminarians per year for a small diocese. And I should say this, many of the dioceses that we work with, that could be serving 500,000 up to 1 million people. And those dioceses might have the same annual operating budget as one of our larger parishes in Chicago. And so they're very, very under-resourced. And so the prospect of funding the education of their seminarians is a really, really difficult thing for them. And so they rely on Catholic Extension to help underwrite those costs. And one of the seminaries we have a great relationship with is Mundelein Seminary, where we've actually set up a scholarship program, the Francis George Scholarship Program, for seminarians from our 87 extension dioceses who would want to come study their theology there, as well as go on and get an STL degree, a licentiate degree. And that has been a great partnership we've had, again, realizing that for many of these poorer dioceses, just funding their seminarian education is an enormous, enormous need that they have, and something that Catholic Extension has been helping to support for many, many years. So those are just kind of two examples of some things that we're involved in, where there's great need in the Catholic Church. And let me just say this as I close the loop on seminarians. Many of the vocations or growth in vocations that you see actually in the country, thankfully, many of them are coming from extension dioceses. They now, in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the Catholic population is about 5% of the entire population of the state, they have now as many priests in their diocese as they did in 1965, which was at their peak. And so
that's amazing.
It's tremendous to see this growth in vocation. So they need help. And thankfully, we have a partner here in Chicago, Mundelein Seminary, that has worked with us to help fulfill that need.
Joe, I've seen Catholic Extension in action, and the thought struck me, in those that are watching on YouTube, the great shots on the screen. If Catholic Extension did not exist, I can't imagine where these rural dioceses would be. It would be beyond words. I just can't fathom, without 117 years now of a presence of Catholic Extension, by way of presence of people, faith builders, monetary to build buildings. And I was with you in Brownsville. I saw 3 or 4 of these modest churches. They were beautiful, though. They were simple but beautiful. It was a gathering for the people. Now, Cardinal Supich came from Rapid City, and Cardinal Supich has a real love for Catholic Extension. Tell us about the work you're doing there in Rapid City.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, to complete your thought, I can't imagine what the church would be without Extension. I also say I can't imagine what the church would be without these communities that we're supporting. They are just beautify us, enrich us in so many different ways. And a great example of that is the diocese where Cardinal Blaise Supich got his start as bishop, Rapid City, South Dakota. It covers a massive geographic area. He compares it to a country. I think it's about the size of Croatia, where his family has his ancestral roots. So it's about half the size of South Dakota, and it covers 5 different native reservations. And Cardinal Supich, I remember back in the day, Bishop Supich, when he was bishop out there and a member of Catholic Extension's board as well. That was, again, part of the vision of our good friend and president, Father Jack Wall. He said, boy, there's this really bright bishop out in Rapid City, and I'd really like to get him involved in our board at Catholic Extension. And he did. And so he's had a great relationship with us, not only as a recipient of, the funding of Catholic Extension for our diocese that he shepherded, but also as a long time now member of our Board of Governors, and of course now today as our chancellor. But in that diocese where he was very in tune with the realities of the Native American community. In fact, he partnered with Catholic Extension when he first got there to commission a study to really do extensive listening sessions with these very diverse Native American communities throughout his diocese and on these reservations, to talk to them about ways in which the Catholic Church could be a greater presence to them and to the people, and be a greater evangelizing force, if you will. And that partnership brought together a lot of different leadership opportunities and ministries that then followed. And so if you've ever been out to a Native American reservation, you might know that there are areas where there's a lot of struggle. There's a great deal of poverty that spans generations. There's a great deal of unemployment and issues of all kinds. And so those are places that we understand, and certainly then Bishop Supich understood. The church needs to have a strong presence in these places, to be in solidarity with those who are suffering and those who really experience themselves on the margins. And we continue to work with that diocese. We continue to support the ministries of some of those great Native American reservations that are out there. And just a wonderful, beautiful people who, again, are a great blessing to us. Pope Francis said in the synod after where they talked with the Amazonian people, said that every tribe, every people is an expression of the inexhaustible beauty of God. And you certainly see that in a place like Rapid City, where you see this culture and faith coming together in a very powerful way that enriches us. And I know we as Chicago Catholics often hear Bishop Supich, or now Cardinal Supich, talk about some of that wisdom that he gleaned from those years ministering to the Native peoples.
Joe, we've been on the air now about 45 minutes. We could have been here till noon. We're beginning to run out of time. Mark, take us to our last break.
WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can watch on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. When we come back, Joe, maybe we could talk a little bit about the board. You had mentioned Cardinal Supich on the board, a lot of bishops. You go to the website, a lot of bishops on the board. I'm curious about that. But then in terms of Catholic leadership, what are the needs now, and how can Catholics around the country be a support of Catholic Extension. Maybe I'd ask it this way. What can the Faith Community Holy Name Cathedral do to help support Catholic Extension? We'll be back in a few minutes for Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here, Catholic Chicago. Please stay tuned.
At Catholic Charities, we fight hunger in Chicago throughout the year. Our 6 regional offices in Cook and Lake counties work together to offer sit-down and to-go meals to anyone in need. We deliver meals to those who are homebound, and our 8 food pantries offer 3 to 4 days of food supplies based on household size. Participants in these programs have the opportunity to learn about other Catholic charity services that strengthen individuals, families, and their communities. The challenges for those dealing with food insecurity are especially great during the winter months. To learn how you can help those who are hungry in your neighborhood, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7525. That's 312-655-7525. Thank you for your generosity.
I am a seminarian.
The Church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Ancestry and genealogy are more important every day. People all over the world are wanting to learn more about their family heritage for personal and for health reasons. At Catholic Charities, we are hearing from adults who lived for a brief time at St. Vincent's Orphanage, the wonderful life-affirming agency that operated out of our headquarters for 91 years, serving thousands of women, children, and families until it closed in 1972. Our post-adoption services help adults who want to learn more about their experience at St. Vincent's. Our compassionate staff members provide whatever family background information they can offer, along with support and reunion services. To learn more, call 312-655-7093. That's 312-655-7093. The spirit of St. Vincent's lives on in the inspiring stories that continue to emerge today.
We're back at WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can see us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi here with Joe Boland, Vice President of Mission with Catholic Extension. Joe, when we took a break, I was just curious. I remember years ago talking to Monsignor Vila when he was there and basically saying that financially, Catholic Extension is not a charity that accumulates funds. The needs are so great every year. What you take in, pretty much you spend. How do you figure out those priorities? There's so many needs.
There are so many needs, and that's why it goes back to what one of our primary goals is to really be a listening organization. Is to really be an organization that is in collaboration, in partnership with these 87 dioceses that work with us, throughout the country, to really understand their hopes and their dreams and their goals for themselves, and to help understand what are their greatest priorities. And so we certainly have a guideline of how we provide support and assistance and programming to these places. But it really begins with the communities themselves. and what they see as needing help with. And so we do a lot of listening. You asked about the travel before. We probably do about 115 to 120 visits and events with our in our dioceses, in these communities, as well as with the Catholic leadership of these places, so that Catholic Extension can be as in touch as it possibly can to help raise awareness for and ultimately resources for what they have presented to us. And it tends to be, basic stuff. I mean, the three main ways the Catholic Extension provides support is supporting infrastructure and facilities, supporting the leadership of the Catholic Church. So whether it's funding the salaries of the sisters working in the Native American reservations, or funding the salary of a priest who's working with the migrant farm workers, or funding the education of seminarians, we do a lot to support leadership. And then thirdly is to support ministry, some of the basic ministries of the church that would not be possible without Catholic Extension help. Earlier, or I should say late in 2021, I was out in Alaska, and I was visiting with a missionary priest out there. He serves a lot of the native Alaskan villages, none of which are accessible by road. They're only accessible either by plane or by snowmobile. And so there was a presbyteral meeting of the priests during this time. And the main concern all the priests had at this presbyteral meeting was, how can we get the right snowmobile parts to make sure that we can get to the parishes this winter to celebrate Mass? And in fact, and that's a huge priority, because during the pandemic, some of these communities did not see a priest, did not have Catholic Mass for about 13 months. The bishop up there, Bishop Chad Zielinski, who's a wonderful man, said that he went to one of those villages after a 13-month, absence of any kind of priest or himself, the bishop. And he said the people literally greeted him with tears. Mm-hmm. And so obviously there's cost to doing that type of ministry in that type of area like Alaska. And Catholic Extension literally helps sometimes fill the tank of gas on the snowmobile. It gets as basic and as elemental as that sometimes.
Now, Joe, two questions. Number one is, we've talked about Rapid City, South Dakota, Brownsville, Texas, parts of Alaska, Puerto Rico. Which Catholic Extension diocese connected would be closest to Chicago?
Geographically speaking, Kalamazoo, Michigan,
Okay.
and our commitment to them is really with the migrant farm workers.
Okay.
Many of us who are Chicagoans love to go up to Western Michigan, that beautiful lakefront, and hang out there. I'm one of them. But also, that's a diocese where you have tens of thousands of migrant farm workers coming in every year. Picking the fruit and the vegetables that are ultimately found in our supermarkets and on our tables. And the Catholic Church does a great deal of work with the migrant farm workers, not only in that diocese, but in many dioceses across the country. And so, geographically speaking, the Diocese of Kalamazoo, Michigan, or in other words, southwestern Michigan, would be the closest diocese geographically to the Archdiocese of Chicago.
And now, just listening to this last hour, being with Extension now for yourself, 14 years, how has this work impacted you personally?
Yeah, I think you see your relationships differently. You see your faith differently, certainly. You see family differently. And what I mean by that is you have a greater appreciation of all of it. I have been to so many communities. I just mentioned the one in Alaska that didn't see a priest for 13 months. I have encountered so many people that really, truly fight for their faith, that their faith is so core to who they are. They are so desperate to pass it on to the next generation, to their children, to share it with them. And it's a very simple dream. And oftentimes the people who have nothing, and you will walk into these communities. My favorite example is walking into an indigenous community in Southern California, which is the Diocese of San Bernardino, which, by the way, is the diocese where Bishop Alberto Rojas is now, formerly of Chicago. And it's an indigenous community, and they help. It's people living out in a trailer park who pick the crops in the fields. They're very poor, and the community work with them, and they help get a park, which is great. They helped pave the streets, wonderful. They got street lights. They're very, very happy with that. But I met with these indigenous leaders, and they said, we need a church. We need a church to be built here. And that's actually a project we're working on right now with Bishop Rojas to help see what we can do to provide a church building for those people. And the reason why they see a church, amid all their problems and struggles in life, they know so intuitively that the church is at the core of their community. It's at the core of their identity. It's at the core of their family. And so they give people like me an appreciation for why I'm Catholic, why faith is important, why family is important, and how faith kind of intersects with all of this, and that faith touches hearts, lives, as well as society at large as well. You know, we build up vibrant, transformative faith communities so that they can go out into the world and ultimately live their mission and be transformative of the society around them. And every place I go, no matter the context, whether we're talking Alaska or the church in Appalachia or the church in the deep South or Puerto Rico, you see examples of people who literally have nothing when it comes to, you know, their socioeconomics, their financial reality, but faith and family is everything to them. And you cannot experience that and be the same Catholic, be the same person. I'm not the same father. It changes you and transforms you.
So how do people connect before we run out of time?
We have 1 minute left.
Yeah.
We want everybody who is open to this to experience that transformation for themselves. And so Catholic Extension has done a quarterly magazine now for over 100 years. Get the magazine. Go to our website.
Give us the web. Give us the web, Joe.
CatholicExtension.org. There's ways to donate there. There's ways to read about some of the upcoming things that we're involved in, the current projects, the building of churches, the ministries, the leaders.
The magazine is marvelous.
Yeah,
now, is there a phone number people can call? Is there a phone number?
And you can get on the magazine and download that there. Our phone number is on there where you can call, get a Catholic Extension calendar as well. All the information's at the website, CatholicExtension.org.
Well, I just want to say, this has been a tremendous hour. Joe, you're doing a phenomenal job along with Father Jack Wall and the entire team. You work effortlessly, long hours, tremendous miles put on the airplane all the way from Puerto Rico to Alaska, every other place. So I want to thank in a very special way Joe Boland, Vice President of Mission for Catholic Extension. Joe, you've been an outstanding guest, and so thank you. We'll be back on again and give our best to the entire crew there. Special thank you to our co-host, Mark Teresi. Great job, Mark. And to our tremendous work of our team here, Javi Garcia, Michael May, producer engineers, have done a tremendous job. To all of our listeners, may God bless you. It's cold out there. It's January in Chicago, and think of the poor, and to be the face of Christ to the poor is what it's all about, to reach out in faith and love. And we pray for an end to the pandemic. Please pray to an end for that. So God bless all of you, and have a blessed day and a weekend coming up.
Every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.